Hi, I'm David Adams. I'm your instructor for the Project Management course. The lecture today will cover the step-by-step instructions to develop a project schedule. I will be demonstrating this with the Gantt project software, although you may be using other instructor-improved project scheduling software. Our goal is to determine the project completion date from the information provided by the project task worksheet we developed. You will learn how to shorten the timeline through techniques called fast tracking and crashing. Come with me to learn how to put together a Gantt project schedule. With this unit lecture, we move to the second part of Plan the Project phase. We've completed the work breakdown structure and the project task worksheet, which allows us now to go to the project schedule. So in this unit, we'll learn about what is a project schedule, the types of project schedules. We'll work on the in-class case study, the Bolt Delivery App project, to create a Gantt chart and build a project schedule for this case and alternatives to shorten the timeline. And of course, we'll end with best practices. In Unit 5, we'll specifically create the project schedule, which will reflect the task time duration, the cost, and the resources necessary. By understanding how the work tasks work together, whether working in series or parallel, we'll learn about the final completion date based on the input from the project team. So what is a project schedule? It's basically a timetable that outlines the start and end dates both for milestones, tasks, as well as the overall project. It is an important part for a project manager to do this so we can manage the triple constraint, that is, managing cost, time, and scope. There are three basic types of project schedules that are available for a project manager. There's a project calendar schedule, the network diagram project schedule, and the Gantt chart project schedule. We'll take time to talk about each of these and their advantages and disadvantages. So let's start with the first type, the project calendar schedule. It's basically what you think it is. It's a calendar, and you can put your task on each day that work is required. It's great for small projects, it's great for a short timeline, and tasks can be seen on a daily basis. The disadvantage is that there really is no easy way to have resource designations seen. It's difficult to see multiple activities on the same day, and it's difficult to work the plan to either fast track or crash the schedule. However, for some small projects, the project calendar schedule works just fine. The second type of project schedule we'll look at is a network diagram, and it's pretty much as it's displayed. That is, you'll see a sequential and logical relationship between tasks that are represented by boxes. So you can see things that are done in series and things that are done parallel. The network diagram also has the ability to identify the critical path. But like the project calendar schedule, it really does not have a great way of seeing resource designation. And you cannot see daily tasks required. And there really is no real feel for timeline of the milestones and completion dates. It's just a bunch of boxes put together. And the third type of project schedule we'll take a look at is a Gantt chart. It's a favorite among project managers. It's a tool that helps you plan and schedule projects in every size. It's really a horizontal bar chart that shows project management timelines, the task starting and end dates, dependencies based on whether things are done in parallel or in series, and it really shows you the overall project task flow. In this course, we will learn about Gantt chart project scheduling as part of the case study. As mentioned earlier, we will be using the Gantt project software in this course. You may also use Microsoft Project if you have that available to you. And if you need something different, you need to get that pre-approved by your instructor beforehand. The Gantt project software is freeware that's open source and it's available on multiple platforms. The software was initiated in 2003, is very stable, and has been around for 19 years with periodic updates every 1 to 6 months. And it mimics and interfaces with MS Project. I am an expert at MS Project, and I can tell you I tested this program fully, and you'll find it has 95% of the features most used in doing project scheduling. Downloading the Gantt project software is pretty straightforward, and this slide will help you with that process. You go to the link ganttproject.biz/download, and you follow the instructions for the free download in option 2. Choose your platform that you'll be using. I have downloaded and used on both the Windows and the Mac platform levels, and they work equally as well. With the next 22 slides, I'll show you, using the Gantt project software, how to do the proper setup and then apply the project task worksheet for the Bolt delivery app project and how to develop the first draft of the project schedule. When you first start the Gantt project software, this slide number 11 will show you the startup screen for the Gantt project after downloading. The setup step 1 is to enter the name and, if needed, the description of the project. You'll go to the top ribbon and select Project, and for the window you'll select Project Properties and select the name and position option. You'll enter in the project name, title, and if you needed to, the description of the project, and you click OK when completed. With step 2 of the setup, you'll be manipulating the calendar. On the top ribbon, you'll select Project and then Project Properties on the pop-up window and choose the calendar option. As a first step in the calendar window, you're going to choose which are working days and which are days off. In our situation, we're going to designate Saturday and Sunday as days off, and you'll check those appropriate boxes that are days off. All others you'll leave unchecked. Next, you'll designate the holiday calendar by clicking the pull down for the days off. Gantt Project has entered in the holiday schedules for most countries, and in choosing the United States, you can look at the days off and manipulate those that apply, which will be working, which those are not. The calendar schedule is important because as we plan and enter task duration, it will skip those days off as well as holidays and will extend when the project will be completed. Note that when you're happy with the days selected for days work and the holiday schedule, you can select OK. Note that you can come back at any time and change the days off or the holiday schedule. This will impact the final completion date. The third step in the setup is adjusting the Gantt chart settings. On the top ribbon, you'll select Edit. And as the window opens up, you'll hit Settings with the Gantt chart option open window. And there, you'll select the task color. You click on it and you can choose the color of your choice. I like yellow. It shows up well, especially down the road when we're controlling the project and seeing what is done. A black line goes through the yellow bar. Next, on this pop-up window, I like to select the 25% for weekend rendering style to show how it's displayed on the Gantt chart. You'll see light pink lines that indicate when a weekend happens. And on the taskbars themselves, I like labeling the left and the right side. So identifying task progress on the left, you'll see the percent complete done on each task. By assigning resources for the right, you'll see who's doing it. So both on left and right, you'll have some designation of both what's been done and who's doing the work. Of course, there's many more options you can choose, but these are my favorite and I believe work the best. When satisfied, select OK when completed. Again, you can always come back to the Gantt chart settings to redo to your liking. Step 4 of the setup is to manage the columns to the left of the Gantt chart. That's the area that's below that says Gantt Project and shows the honeycomb. The default setting for the left side Gantt chart columns is the name of the task, the start date, and the end date. With this open pop-up screen, you can select the open eye versus the close eye option for duration and ID. You'll find both of these very valuable. Again, you always have the option of turning on other columns to reveal other data, but these two are my favorite. When you're happy, select Apply when completed. And the last step for setup is the reposition and spacing of the columns on the left-hand side. After you opened up the gear option and dumped both the duration and ID number, they just dumped it to the right of the already established columns. You need to use your mouse selection, the click and hold option, to move the ID column to the left. And you also can change the spacing so you can see as much of the data as required. That's it. You completed the 5-step process for a proper setup, which will allow you now to progress to project scheduling. We are now ready to create the project schedule for our in-class case study, the Bolt Delivery App project. It's best to get a hard copy of your project task worksheet, and of course, we just did the proper setup for the Gantt project. By completing the project schedule, we'll see what the estimated completion date versus what was asked for in the project charter. Step 1 in building the Gantt chart is entering in all the tasks. With your project task worksheet in hand, you'll be entering in all the tasks that were on the sheet, 15 of them. The first line in your project task worksheet, which is number 0, will be entered in first. And of course, the task is really the project name, the Bolt Delivery App project. To enter in the first line, you want to go to the ribbon bar and pick the third icon to add task to activate the first line of the task list. After entering, you'll select the Enter key and you'll see the first line filled. Note that it's ID 0 and it says the Bolt Delivery App project and the duration is 1 day. Until we change the duration days, all of them will default to 1 day. Notice also that a yellow horizontal bar of 1 day is next to the first line task. You have now entered your first line in the Gantt chart. You will now repeat the same process for the additional 14 lines on the project task worksheet. You will not put the numbers in like they appear on the project task list. So you'll now repeat the same process for the 14 additional line items on the project task worksheet. You'll select from the ribbon bar the third icon to enter the task, type in the task name, and hit enter. And you'll complete that 14 times. Note for each line item, the horizontal yellow bar looks the same. It's for 1 day on the same starting date. Step 2 of the Building the Gantt chart is the subtask project task. We will have to subtask all 14 lines under the first line that's identified as line 0. With your mouse, you can select all 14 lines below the first line and then go to the second ribbon line and select the subtask add button, and that'll subtask all 14 lines below the first task line. What will change is in the first task line item, as opposed to seeing a horizontal yellow bar, you'll see a black bar with arrows on either side. We'll continue with step 2, subtask project task, by selecting those under the milestones, which are the whole numbers, and hitting the task and selecting the subtask button to promote those downwards. What will result is you'll only see the yellow horizontal bars for the task at the lowest level. You will now be able to identify each of your deliverables, which are now milestones, by the small black bars underneath the first line. We will now move on to step 3 in building the Gantt chart by adding task duration. By default, the task duration was 1 day for each of the yellow horizontal bars. So for the first line, project activities, we need to enter in the duration of 1 week. But note, in this Gantt chart, we need to convert that to days. So you need to enter 7 days as the duration. A window will then pop up, and you need to change it from 1 to 7 days for duration, and then select OK. You will then note that the yellow horizontal bar for the project activities will change from 1 day to 7 days. You will now have to repeat the same exercise for each of the horizontal yellow bars, as indicated in the slide. You'll need to convert 4, 6, and 2 weeks for the new product development task, 2, 6, and 8 weeks for the product creation task, 10 weeks for marketing, and 2 weeks for commercialization. And what you'll see is the yellow horizontal bars stretch way beyond the screen to the right. Before we start step 4, you need to bring all the yellow bars into view. If you take your mouse and go along the top ribbon bar where it says zoom out, keep clicking until you see the bars about halfway across the screen. Please note, as the chart is built right now, all the horizontal yellow bars are in parallel, and that's not realistic. We can't do all the activities at the same time. So now we have to do is step 4, adding task dependency as we built in the project task worksheet. As we can see on the project task worksheet, we can see that the task of project activities is linked to the new product strategy in series and not in parallel, marked by the predecessor number 2 on that line 4. These two tasks can be put into series by linking them together. First, select line 2 and line 4 with the Control plus mouse. Then select the linked icon. It looks like a chain, and select that. What you'll find is an arrow that goes from task 2 to task 4, and it's in series. For each of the following yellow horizontal bar tasks, you'll need to link those also, sort of a copy-paste activity. And what you reveal is sort of a waterfall to give you a new date of completion. So you need to continue to link tasks as indicated in the task project worksheet. Step 5 in building the Gantt chart is adding resources. And for each yellow horizontal bar, we're going to have to add a new resource name. And what is really great with this Gantt chart program is that those resources will appear on the right side of the horizontal yellow bar, so we'll know who's doing each of those activities and tasks. The first step is to add all the resources that are going to be used for the project. So taking the project task worksheet, you're going to add project management, business, engineering, and marketing, and the third-party bid to the adding resources portion. Once each of these resources are entered in the program, then you can assign a particular resource or resources to each of the task activities represented by the horizontal yellow bars. So we now must enter each of these resources into the program. You first select resources from the horizontal ribbon at the very top of the program, and a window will pop up and you'll add the new resource name and you'll select OK. You'll continue to add all the new resources from the project task worksheet with the same process. Once we've added all the resources into the program, we'll have to select each of the tasks with the yellow horizontal bar and select the resource or resources that are associated from the product task worksheet. For example, for our first task, project activities, you can double-click and a pop-up window will appear. Across the top of those tabs, you'll pick the Resource tab. Then you can use the pull-down window and add Project Management, and then select OK to continue. You will now note for the Project Activities task, yellow horizontal bar, on the right it'll say Project Management as the resource. For the remainder 7 yellow horizontal tasks, you'll continue the same addition of the resources as you did with the project activities. Use the project task worksheet to help you do the assignment. Once it's all done, you've completed the resource assignment on the Gantt chart. So now we're in the final step 6 for building the Gantt chart, setting the project start date. When you started the building of the Gantt chart using the program, it picked the start date as a default of the day you're doing it. In the Bolt Delivery app project, the real start date is September 1st, and the program was built in July or August. So to really understand the true completion date from the project, you must align it with the start date when the project actually starts. So in this case, we need to shift the entire Gantt chart diagram to the appropriate starting point. And you do this by going to the top ribbon and selecting Project, Properties, and Calendar. And you'll see a box when the start date is. It's also good to validate the weekend work and holiday calendar to make sure they weren't eliminated for some reason. When you're happy with it, then you can click OK. So we now have completed the first draft of the project schedule with a Gantt chart. And you need to be sure to save your project after each phase. And you probably should label it something like first draft. Note that all the milestones are identified by those black bars. All the task activities are in the yellow bars and have both % complete and resources identified. You'll see in the background the calendar impact with the pink lines for non-work days, including weekends and holidays. But you can also notice the project timeline starting on September 1st, the way we programmed it in. It's to be completed on October 16th, 2023, way beyond the project charter's expectation of being completed by July 1st, 2023. We have a problem. So with the first draft of the project schedule, the project manager will compare the project schedule with the project charter. In our situation, we have the deliverables, timeline, and cost to consider. All the deliverables were included, which meets. The timeline, however, as we already indicated, we have schedule overrun. And the cost, as far as we can tell, it's still on budget. So what are we to do? We're probably going to have to renegotiate the deadline with the project sponsor or modify the project with fast track and crash. And we'll have to have a meeting with the project sponsor to discuss those options. So the project manager's option to shorten the timeline on the project schedule usually falls on two categories: fast-tracked and crashed. And you can see in this diagram what the impact could be. First is fast-tracked, where not everything is in series, but it's not in parallel either. You pull it up a little bit, but running things that are overlapping, there's a risk those activities may not be done. And there's some activities like when you're building a house, the concrete has to set before you start building on the foundation. So you need to take care with the fast track. Another alternative is something you call crash the schedule. You throw more resources at it, hoping you can shorten the timeline without overlapping. But again, that may increase cost and may or may not result in what you're trying to achieve. And in some desperate situations, you may have to try fast track and crashing at the same time, pulling it in and throwing more people at it. But again, you as the project manager need to manage the triple constraint, maintain the cost, the time, and the scope. And now back to the Bolt Delivery App project plan. The project manager had a meeting with the project sponsor to see what he could do to shorten the timeline. The project sponsor responded saying that the project deadline has to be July 1st, no exceptions. The project sponsor did agree to a fast-track start for the product development task 3 weeks after the start of the business analysis task. And if that still didn't get it, it was okay to fast-track start the market testing task 2 weeks after the start of the product development task. He felt doing those two activities maximum should bring it back in the timeline. So the project manager got back to the project schedule Gantt chart program and started to work on the fast track step 1. First, he had to detach the series connection between the two tasks. By double-clicking on the product development task on the left side of the Gantt chart, you can select the Predecessors tab. And when you see the Predecessors tab, you can select to the Delete button for the Business Analysis Task Predecessor. That detaches and lets that task float out there. Select OK when that's completed. Next, the project manager had to move up the product development task. To do that, you double-click on the task on the left side and select the General tab. You can change the beginning date for the product development task, in this case to February 15th, 2023. And it's always necessary to change the task barcode to a different color to differentiate from the normal yellow horizontal bar. In this case, I recommend the orange color. So you can change that color and select OK. You can now review the impact of the Fast Track Modification number 1. The project timeline was shortened from an end date of October 16th to August 30th. It still doesn't hit the complete project date required of July 1st, 2023. So now the project manager had to start modification number 2 to detach the product development market testing task and to move up the market testing task to see if he could pull in the schedule to get a better completion date. Like before, you double-click on the particular task, in this case market testing, select the Predecessor tab, and delete the button for the Business Analysis Task Predecessor and select OK. And now the market testing task is floating on the Gantt chart. As agreed upon with the project sponsor, the project manager is now going to move the market testing task to a start date of March 1st. He double-clicks the market testing task and selects the General tab, changes the begin date for the market testing task to March 1st, 2023, changes the taskbar color to orange to indicate the fast track, and select OK. And the final result of the review of the Fast Track Modification number 1 and number 2 has helped with the project timeline. There's a start date of September 1st, 2022 with a projected completion date of June 26, 2023. That hits the target and you can meet the project deadline of July 1st. And you do have the orange bars of the Fast Track Modification number 1 and number 2 to help the overall time schedule. That's something that the project manager will have to watch just in case there's some issues. And as stated before, you need to be sure to save your project after each of these phases. The project manager needs to do a project plan review with the second draft to compare with the project charter. The deliverables, all are included. Timeline, the second draft meets the schedule. Note that there is fast tracking, and that's going to be something to monitor closely and most likely to add to the risk register, which we'll cover in the next unit. And the cost budget still remains the same. So you have a meets and deliverables, needs in the timeline, and meets in the cost. The exercise has been completed successfully. The project manager successfully completed the project scheduling exercise. Let's review the best practices. You need to use a completed task project work list that was developed from the work breakdown structure to develop the project schedule. You can see by using Gantt chart software, it's easy to manipulate the timeline back and forth to see what the impact is based on changes. I would also consider using color coding, automatic changes, lines for connecting tasks, sub-tier tasks, resource assignment, and multiple baseline options when you're working with project scheduling. And the project manager, as well as the project sponsor, need to take care with scheduling, fast tracking, and schedule crashing. These are risks that may cause impact that you may not have expected. Until next time.